sports. It's in the game.
The contest Formula 1 2021 is officially over, but there's still 3 more rounds for bragging rights and stat padding. Welcome to round 18 of 20 in Formula 1 2021. We are officially done as a contest in the championship, but we still need 3 more rounds to make it official. Today we are at the Sao Paulo circuit in Brazil for the running of the Brazilian Grand Prix, the seed of many a title decider in 2007, 2008 and even more memorably in 2012. Actually 2008 was probably more memorable than that, but of course Sebastian Vettel made a charge towards the title. It's the final race of the great Michael Schumacher. Bit of a strange glitch there with Aiden Jackson showing on 28 points and needing about maybe 2 billion to stay in contention. I'm not really sure why that showed up, but even still, Aiden Jackson, well, he's not really been in contention, but he's made his own headlines this season. And rumours are that HAAS are going to be probably giving him a new power unit to take a plethora of grid penalties for the the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, which comes up next. Abu Dhabi's last. Let's take a look at the grid then for today's race. Sergio Perez and Charles Leclerc certainly make up a strange front row for the first time this season, and anyone could win from there. Good position by Charles Leclerc, but of course he benefits from grid penalties. Daniel Ricciardo and Pierre Gasly on the second row, and then we've got Max Verstappen and Yuki Tsunoda. However, grid penalties are already mixing up this grid. Anyone could win it from there. 7th is Sebastian Vettel, followed by Lewis Hamilton, who took a plethora of grid penalties. He's down to 8th. Esteban Ocon and Lance Stroll completing your top 10. Kimi Raikkonen in a vital position for Alfa Romeo. They need a haul of points now to reel in HAAS. Fernando Alonso is 12th, followed by Antonio Giovinazzi and George Russell. Carlos Sainz took grid penalties and is down to 16th alongside Mick Schumacher. Jackson is down to 17th alongside Lando Norris. Nicholas Latifi is 19th, and world champion Valtteri Bottas, if you're keeping count at home, starts from the back of the grid. And what a great way to kind of come back for your championship winning race, to start at the back of the grid. Obviously Valtteri Bottas may be out there with something to prove, but to be fair, Bottas has not had the car issues that Lewis Hamilton has had in terms of reliability this season, so his grid penalty was probably coming, but to last until round 18 with these grid penalties, that's actually really impressive and really a testament to the great reliability that Mercedes have. Aside from Lewis Hamilton for a couple of times, I think Hungary, and last time out, of course, in Mexico City, where he retired 3 laps in the end, and that made Valtteri Bottas the world champion. And HAAS really suffering from a bad a reality check of sorts. Not a bad, but a reality check. Jackson's not looked strong around here, and neither is Schumacher, so I think the lack of development has finally caught up to HAAS. So I think Jackson scoring what he did, they had to make the best of it, and now everyone is pretty much well clear of them. That even Latifi in the Williams is pretty much hanging with them now. We expect HAAS to get dropped relatively soon in this race, particularly by Norris and Valtteri Bottas in particular. There at the back of the grid due to engine penalties. It's one of the shortest laps in the calendar here at Sao Paulo, and it's only a distance of about 80 seconds around here normally. I think on a quick day like this back in 2017, I think it was cut by about 10 seconds. So we could be, I don't think we'll be looking at times at any less than a minute. It's probably about 1 minute and 10 seconds. I think 1 minute and 9 is actually the cutoff in qualifying. If these cars are going to be faster, it's going to go by a blur, isn't it? But of course, with the new cars, speed isn't a virtue here. It's going to be all about aerodynamic and overtaking. and the removal of dirty air. Well, it's time to stat pad and fill out the stats for the rest of the season. Here, there, the 5 red lights ahead of the drivers. The green flag is at the back. You know what happens next. It's lights out, and away we go, go, go. How is the start for Perez? It's pretty good. Perez is going to lead everyone into turn 1. Looks like Charles Leclerc has P2 coming. Pierre Gasly there going into 3rd place. I think he started there. But anyway, Pierre Gasly in 3rd place, and he knows his way around here. I think he scored a podium a few years ago. Was that Daniel Kvyat, actually? It's been so long I can barely remember. Max Verstappen, of course, was taken out of one of those races by Esteban Ocon in the then Racing Point. He's currently made his way up to 7th. He's behind Lewis Hamilton. Yuki Tsunoda, great honourable mention there, up into 7th already. No, 5th, my apologies. Jackson's already been dropped to the back, so he's actually lost places at the start for the first time this season. And I think aside from that, obviously Bottas has moved up to 16th. So Bottas is a great start in the Mercedes. He's already cleared Sainz and Norris, which could be crucial. And Sergio Perez and Charles Leclerc are pretty much dropping Pierre Gasly in their real tracks at the moment. It's still within a second. Of course, there's no DRS activated until the end of the second racing lap as they come round to the end of the first one now. It's Sergio Perez leading with Charles Leclerc and Pierre Gasly. Daniel Ricciardo is 4th, followed by Tsunoda, Lewis Hamilton. Max Verstappen has made his way up to 7th. Followed by Esteban Ocon and Lance Stroll. I think there's someone else in there. It's Vettel in 8th position as they come to the start of the second racing lap. And already Valtteri Bottas is all over the back of Mick Schumacher as they come down the straight. And he's going to take to the outside. And Lando Norris is following a close company as well. Bottas down the outside. Mick Schumacher pulls it in. Great positioning there by Mick Schumacher. And he holds the place for now. But it won't be long till Bottas gets past him, I'm sure, especially when DRS gets activated. Here's the start from Perez, virtually unchallenged, and he now leads this Brazilian Grand Prix. He's already won a race this season back in Baku, so he knows how to win. Here is the start from Jackson. He got dropped by Norris almost immediately. Too much revs at the start. Latifi has to tuck in. Bottas there, taking to the inside, and he goes down 3 wide into turn 1. Valtteri Bottas, the world champion, already showing why he's worthy of the title. Fantastic double move there from Bottas. He took the final amount of space on the inside of the first corner, and now DRS is activated, and Bottas is going round the outside of Mick Schumacher. There's a pass there from, is that Jackson passing Sainz? I think it is. It is. Jackson's already passed the TV, and now he's passed Sainz, so Jackson's making up for lost time. How far is he behind Norris? I think he's like a second, isn't he? I think it's just under a second. So Jackson will get DRS. Bottas has already cleared Schumacher, so now he can set after Giovinazzi and Raikkonen. Raikkonen dropping down to 13th place, and Alfa Romeo now in real danger of not being able to catch HAAS at all. If they don't score points in the next 2 races, it's going to be virtually impossible for them to do it. I think they're about 13 or 12 points back. So really, the highest they can really do is a 4th. They need to be in the top 5 in the next 3 races to have any chance of doing it. And now is the best opportunity with HAAS really falling behind Schumacher, behind Bottas, and Jackson really struggling at the back as well, although he has passed Sainz to be fair. And Charles Leclerc, he's really quietly gone about his business this season. He's pretty much had the beating of Sainz for the majority. But let's be fair, Carlos Sainz won the French Grand Prix. So by law of averages, that probably means Carlos Sainz has had a better season, but I think they've really broke even. Is that Jackson going down the inside of Norris? No, that's Schumacher being caught by Norris. My apologies. So the TV has already fallen to the back. It's going to be very difficult for him to catch Carlos Sainz. George Russell is running in 11th place behind Lance Stroll. We need to really see how far he is behind Lance Stroll. And curse of the commentators has struck me because Alonso has just passed George Russell into 11th place. So I'm very sorry for George Russell and George Russell fans, because I literally put a curse on him by the looks of it. So now George Russell is down to 12th, followed by the Alfa Romeos and Valtteri Bottas. How far is Bottas behind the Alfa Romeos? I think he's about 2/10, so he's right on the tail of Antonio Giovinazzi. We need to keep an eye on Bottas this race. It's going to be an interesting one to see how far he can get up the field. He's gone for a question mark challenge for the YouTubers such as Aaron and Tyler Murdoch. He's definitely gone for that today. And Lewis Hamilton has not cleared Yuki Tsunoda, interestingly. His DRS is an open yes. Let's see how close he gets to Yuki Tsunoda. He's not going to pass him here, Lewis Hamilton. So that's interesting. Yuki Tsunoda, very credibility-wise. Holding his own as Verstappen in a spin. Max Verstappen has dropped it at the ending of the first corner, and now he's going to have to wait for everyone to go by. And really, that just epitomises Max Verstappen's season. He has had a few times where he's kind of taken himself out of the running, but mostly it's been reliability. But there, I think it's his own mistake. He drops to the back, and now he has it all to do. We know Max can do it, though. So let's have a look at the replay here. Very weird that he dropped it there, to be honest. Oh! He activated the ERS in the middle of the corner. Did you just see that? You saw the green ERS going overtake active. Why did he activate it there? It must have been a mispress. He must have pressed the wrong on the steering wheel. Meanwhile, Mick Schumacher is holding off Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. And that'll go down well with him, to be honest, because Schumacher is, of course, tipped to be Sainz's replacement in a couple of years' time. But, of course, you never know. I think it would be very harsh to drop Sainz at the moment because he's had a really good opening season with Ferrari. Of course, he won the French Grand Prix, as we stated earlier. Bottas is being caught by Norris, interestingly. But yes, Max Verstappen activating ERS overtake deployment in the middle of a corner. Surely that's going to be a mispress. I don't think he did it on purpose. That would be just weird. But in any case, now Max Verstappen is at the back of the grid after really driver error, to be fair. And now, this is interesting. Aiden Jackson is actually sticking with Carlos Sainz. He actually passed him earlier, but I think Sainz has repassed him into 17th place. George Russell. That puts George Russell back into 11th. So Max Verstappen's spin has put George Russell back into the points contention. But to be fair, I don't think he's really going to catch those in front of him. And here's Carlos Sainz down the outside of Mick Schumacher with DRS activated. Schumacher tries to counter with his own activation of DRS as he was a second behind Norris. That's credit to Mick Schumacher, but now he's going to fall out of DRS range according to that graphic. So here comes Sainz down the straight. Schumacher, there's really going to be no point fighting. Sainz takes the inside. We've got a terrible camera angle here. I can't tell what's going on. Schumacher's going to try and hold it in around the outside. And unfortunately, he's nothing doing there. So now it's left to the HAAS boys to fight over P17. They might as well race each other as long as they don't take each other off. There's really nothing more HAAS can do for this season. I think their kind of run of somewhat decent results is over. It's been that case for a couple of races now that HAAS have been really hit with the reality check. And, well, if the new cars don't arrive, then it's only going to get worse for HAAS. But they've put all their resources into 2022. And if the cars don't happen, as is feared amongst the FIA and the teams for costs, especially with the salary cap introduced, then we could be running these cars for another year. But the FIA are insistent that if it is next year that they are delayed, it'll be the final year. And after that, everyone will just have to deal with it. There's Aiden Jackson down the inside having a look at his teammate. And nothing doing there, he backs out of it. So this is really crunch time now for Alfa Romeo, and they're about to get dropped by Bottas because the world champion is right behind Antonio Giovinazzi down the straight. And he hasn't got enough to pass him. Hopefully this will be a thing of the past when these new cars arrive. The possession of race results and trains and dirty air. Hopefully it'll be a thing of the past very soon. So now we're going to get a bit of racing here from Aiden Jackson against his own teammate. Jackson's not really been able to showcase his racing in the last 2 or 3 now. Since the win at Monza, it's been really back down to earth for HAAS, but they'll take it because Alfa Romeo are also struggling to score points. Raikkonen's 12th, Giovinazzi's 13th, and like we said, Valtteri Bottas is closing in on them. Max Verstappen has already made his way back up to the back of Nicholas Latifi, or the rear wing of Nicholas Latifi, and that's a good effort from Verstappen. But they'll probably have to pit sooner rather than not. That spin has really ruined his race because he starts on the soft tyres, of course. Here comes Jackson with DRS. It's going to be nothing for Schumacher to defend, so Jackson's going to take to the outside. Schumacher tries to give enough space, but he made the one move. Jackson tries to go around the outside. We've already got Max Verstappen passing the TV, and Jackson doesn't pass his teammate. So Jackson lost it somewhere in the entry to that corner. Schumacher had better coming out. And Schumacher's definitely had the beating of Jackson in the last couple of races, it has to be said. As now we go on to the back of the scrap for P11. George Russell's already been dropped by Fernando Alonso, so he probably won't be scoring any points unless there's a retirement out front. At the front, Sergio Perez is still leading Charles Leclerc. They're almost died next to each other on the track. They've already dropped by Pierre Gasly by about 3 seconds. So Gasly's now out of the running for the win here. I think it was Daniel Kvyat that scored the podium back in, I believe it was 2019. Charles Leclerc is going to DRS on Perez, but he can't get near Perez, which is very unusual because the Ferrari B-Spec unit has been known to be very powerful. But here, Charles Leclerc is making no inroads on Sergio Perez here. And now we're back with the HAAS boys again. And Jackson taking to the outside again on his teammate. George Russell has passed Kimi Raikkonen somewhere. I assume Raikkonen's pitted. Meanwhile, Jackson's definitely got the better exit there. Great move by Jackson. But here comes Max Verstappen on Schumacher to inflict double pain on Mick Schumacher and dropping down to 19th place. That's a great view there. Max going down the inside. It's about to be an easy pass. And it is. Max Verstappen up into 18th place. He's turned the wicket at Max Verstappen. He's pretty much out of the running for today. And George Russell passed Raikkonen, legit, I think. Because Raikkonen is still showing as 12th. So George Russell, to be fair, has done really well there to put his car in 11th place. I'm sure Raikkonen was ahead of him. Well, credit to George Russell anyway, up in 11th place, but he would have been dropped by Alonso by about 4 seconds. We've got some of the leaders already coming on lap 11. Daniel Ricciardo is one of them. I think Lewis Hamilton was the other. And Ricciardo is going into the soft tyres, so it's going to be a 2-stop race for McLaren. In fact, he was the only one coming into the pits. There was no front wing damage, so I think Ricciardo's probably going to try something a bit different. He wasn't really in a position to try and benefit from that, though. Because it's not like he wasn't in a bad position, he was in the top 5. So that puts George Russell into the points, being chased by Kimi Raikkonen now. And now Yuki Tsunoda's P4 behind Gasly. So the AlphaTauri drivers this season have been really decent. And I think currently AlphaTauri, if they're not already, with these results at the moment, they could be poised to overtake Aston Martin in the Constructors' Championship. Aston Martin and Alpine could be falling behind AlphaTauri. So it's a great effort from those two this season. Certainly been the standouts as a collective. Sergio Perez is going 1 lap longer than Charles Leclerc at the very least. Charles putting the soft tyres on, so he'll be 2-stopping. It's funny that a lot of the teams are turning this into a 2-stop race. Really. I think it's because the track is so short. Might as well. Tyre wear isn't a huge factor here. George Russell now moves up into 9th place. Or did Charles stay ahead? I think he did. There's Max Verstappen coming in. He's on the medium tyres now. So he's going to try and go to the end of the race on those. He might manage it. And Antonio Giovinazzi has also come in. So now Sergio Perez is a 7-second lead over Pierre Gasly. This is pretty much his race to lose. Thoroughly dominant out front. Red Bull looking for their 3rd win in a row after 2 from Max Verstappen at USA and Mexico. And now Red Bull have started making a bid. The fact is, it's far, far too late for them. Let's Gasly. The AlphaTauri in 2nd, followed by Yuki Tsunoda. Perez has gone 1 lap more, so the longer Perez can go, it might work out for him later. Hamilton's in. The former world champion is changing his front wing. So he's in an incident somewhere. We didn't see it. It's on the hard tyres. So he's making a bid to go to the end of the race. And, well, that really just epitomises Hamilton's season, to be fair. It's been a very below par season for Lewis Hamilton. Take the engine failures out. He spun at Zandvoort, of course. He didn't look all at it in somewhere like Monaco either. It's really been a below par season for the former champion. Lewis Hamilton really hasn't had the season that we expected. And maybe a changing of the guard at Mercedes is happening. And maybe we used to say impending arrival of George Russell. We don't know if that's so certain now. Perez comes in. So he's gone 2 laps more than Leclerc. He's currently about, I would say, looking at the interval, probably about 20 seconds. So I think Charles might just come out in the lead here. And what's the status been on clear air for him? I think he's been relatively in clear air. Tsunoda's gone on. So Tsunoda now leads this race. He's already led a race this season as well. Charles Leclerc is battling with Lance Stroll around the outside. That could be a vital move because now he's in relatively clear air, chasing guess who? Sebastian Vettel. His former teammate. Those two collided in I think it was 2020. These two collided, which really epitomised Ferrari's season, more or less. This is 2019. A lot of stuff's happened that I've forgotten apparently. George Russell now running in 7th. Or 6th, by the way. He still left his pit, though. What a vital move that was for Charles Leclerc. And now Perez has to deal with Lance Stroll. But Perez really has come out the better in all this. What tyres did Perez put on? We didn't see. I wasn't really paying attention there. So Tsunoda's come in at 14. That's quite a good distance on those soft tyres, to be fair. The soft tyres are really lasting a lot longer than some people expected. Now Sebastian Vettel takes over the lead of this race. So I would say the big benefactor is Sergio Perez, depending on what Perez put on the car. In fact, Sergio Perez hasn't still cleared Lance Stroll yet. No, he wouldn't have cleared Lance Stroll. That was Leclerc, obviously. Plethora of drivers coming in now. George Russell's one of them. I think Jackson was the other. Schumacher's gone on. He's into P9 now. Of course, it's a kind of a red herring. But Schumacher's gone really well on those tyres he started on. I think he's on the softs. Some drivers are doing better at making the softs last than others. It's not really going to count much for Mick Schumacher. He's got Lewis Hamilton bearing down on him after the former world champion had a wing change. World champion Valtteri Bottas now down in 17th. Obviously he had to pit. Aiden Jackson's running last, which is unfortunate, but of course he's just pitted. So Hamilton on the hard tyres. He's obviously gone to the hard tyres to replace that front wing damage. Who was Hamilton around? He was around Tsunoda, wasn't he? So, strange. Strange he had to change his front wing. Unless he made contact with Tsunoda somewhere. But he was struggling to pass him earlier in the race. Well, here we go. Hamilton down the outside. Schumacher goes into the pits anyway. And there's Leclerc. A vital move now on Sebastian Vettel. Can he take the lead of this race? He'll take it regardless, because Vettel will have to pit. But this all depends on what Perez put on his car, because I wasn't really paying attention to that, I guess. On lap 16 then. And there is Jackson. Is he on the hards, I think? I think he was on the hards. So he's going to the end, or looking to at least. And it's going to be very close between the Haas drivers of who comes out ahead. We've cut away. Looks like Schumacher did beat him. Yes, he did. So Schumacher's starting to get one up on Aiden Jackson now. It's been a good end to the year for Mick Schumacher. He's definitely had the legs of Jackson in the second half, as Charles Leclerc does put a move on Sebastian Vettel, who goes one lap further. Sebastian Vettel trying a daring strategy here. 17 laps on the soft tyres. And, well, Mick Schumacher leading his teammate again. It's been a good end to the year for Mick. He's definitely had the better of Jackson in the second half. Ever since the win at Monza for Jackson, Jackson's kind of... We've just approached tracks with Jackson where he just fell off because of the car. Charles Leclerc leads this race. But what did Perez put on? I think he put on the softs, personally. The way Jackson takes these corners, he locks the car up. Very Michael Schumacher-esque in the way he uses the front slide of a lockup to turn the car. Now he's going down the inside of his teammate. Schumacher has better speed. Did you see the speed? Schumacher came through that corner. It didn't look like Jackson looked all comfortable there. And I don't think Schumacher moved across, but the way Jackson into the corner, he just had no confidence at all. Maybe he was surprised. Well, HAAS battling for the scraps. At least we're getting a battle for them. And Pierre Gasly has repassed Sebastian Vettel. I'm assuming Vettel is actually in the pits. He is. And this is who we need to be watching. Sergio Perez. He's put the hards on. So Perez is in prime position to win this race now, because that is perfect for him. And we know that Sergio Perez has a knack for making the tyres last and eking out every bit of performance whilst maintaining their state, as it were. He's very, very easy on his tyres. Jackson going for almost a dive bomb into turn 1 on his teammate. And he's too far back. Checking the Max Verstappen line out through turn 3. They're going to give Jackson DRS. It is. He's going to be right on him down the inside. Schumacher pushing him towards the edge of the track. Oh my goodness me. And side by side. Was there contact? Was there contact there? It was a very wide panning shot. I didn't see it. But HAAS have been told they can race. I think, knowing Jackson, I think there was no contact. We'll have to see if Schumacher or Jackson head to the pits later on. So Sergio Perez now in prime position to win this race. He's 5 seconds behind Leclerc, who's on soft tyres. It's not going to be enough to win this race for Leclerc at the moment, but he'll be clear of Gasly, so he'll finish second at the very least. Max Verstappen is now in 10th place on the medium tyres. He pitted earlier, so that's been a good effort from Verstappen. Lewis Hamilton down in 7th. Very odd. Very unusual. And Tsunoda really did make his strategy work, because now he's P4. He's actually legit P4 as well. So, once again, a fantastic effort by the AlphaTauri boys. And for Yuki Tsunoda, it has been a pretty stellar season, to be fair. In the points battle, he'll take Rookie of the Year honours, because he's ahead of Jackson. And Jackson scored probably his last points at Monza in that win. So how much can Max Verstappen make up? Down in P10 at the moment. He's actually lighting up the time screens on this stint. Charles Leclerc's lead is now 6 seconds, I think. It's not going to be enough to beat Perez out of the pits. This race has flown by. We're on lap 20. Well, Charles Leclerc's last win was a couple of years ago at Monza, believe it or not. So over the last 3 years, we've had wonderful stories of wonderful wins at Monza. It wasn't Charles' first, of course. But in 2020 and 2021, we had Pierre Gasly and Aiden Jackson taking their first wins respectively. I don't think it'll be the last for Aiden Jackson either. If his trajectory is to go into Aston Martin and maybe take over from Lewis Hamilton to become George Russell's teammate, watch out, because it'll be an all-British lineup of 2 of the biggest stars to take over from Lewis Hamilton in the future. Ricciardo has passed George Russell as I continue to put cursors on him. I'm very sorry about that. I think Perez is in, like I said, prime position to win this race now. Leclerc will have to pit. The soft tyres won't make it. Verstappen struggling against Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso here. I'm not really sure why Fernando Alonso is considering retirement. He's had a pretty decent first season back. It really is unusual. But what does that call for Alpine now? If that is the case, And we've got Yuki Tsunoda going slowly here. And oh, that's a terrible shame. Is he out of the race? Has he got a puncture or some damage? He's coming down the pit lane. Before the Aston Martin was coming into the pits behind him. And that's a shame. Yuki Tsunoda having such a good race. I think it might be a puncture because he's not exactly pulling out of the race, so it might be a puncture. It's a slow puncture maybe for Tsunoda by the looks of it. Oh, what a shame. So it's such a great race. And now it's all been ruined. Oh, that's such a shame. Well, he's back up to speed. So whatever it was, it's not terminal. AlphaTauri have been almost bulletproof this season. Compared to Red Bull anyway. As Charles Leclerc makes his pit stop, handing the lead to Sergio Perez. And maybe even Pierre Gasly could take second, you know. Here he comes. Pierre Gasly is going to take second here. Leclerc's coming into the pits now. It's going to be very, very close. He might just have enough, actually, Charles Leclerc. There's Perez there. Yep. I thought, for a moment, that Gasly was going to be in second. Gasly needs a comeback drive because he's had a couple of races where he's not looked at it. Zandvoort is definitely a low point for Pierre Gasly. And then we had the Alfa Romeo's calamity at Mexico City last time out. So Lewis Hamilton's still struggling to pass cars. We know Mercedes' weakness is running behind in dirty air. And here, it's been apparent. But like we said, Lewis Hamilton has just not had the season, has he? Bottas has definitely had the better of him this year. There's a whole traffic jam here. And the one benefactor of this could be Antonio Giovinazzi in 10th, 11th place. Alfa Romeo need to score points, and they need to score points now. Because it's very tight at the bottom. It's 13 points between 8th place HAAS and 9th place Alfa Romeo. Williams out of it entirely by the looks of it. And there's more pit stops happening. That's Carlos Sainz in the pits. That's Esteban Ocon, my apologies. And Antonio Giovinazzi is coming in. So points now off the table for Alfa Romeo. We've had a very disappointing year. Everyone was expecting Haas to be rock bottom with no points. Aiden Jackson scoring 28 of them. One with a 25 for a win at Monza, 2 for that drive in France, and then 1 at the British Grand Prix. And they're putting Haas on a total of 28. Mick Schumacher certainly has been put in the shade by his teammate this year, but over the latter course of the season he's definitely caught back up. And Haas are really having a reality check now, because they're down in 18th and 19th place with Jackson leading his teammate. Sebastian Vettel, honourable mention for him, in P4, and doing a stellar job. Such a shame about Yuki Tsunoda though. Now, how close is Hamilton here? We've not got the best of views, but he doesn't look like he's made a move. And, will he get out of the second corner here? I think it's Jun Sao. And with DRS. And no move from Hamilton. Didn't feel like he had the speed there. He's got 9 laps to go. And the race is pretty much settled down now. Charles Leclerc 8 seconds behind Pierre Gasly. And pretty much settled out at this point. Sergio Perez leads from Charles Leclerc. Pierre Gasly in 3rd. Sebastian Vettel still 4th. Lewis Hamilton. Max Verstappen is now up to 6th. As he continues to fly. He might have to make one more stop, mind you. On to 7th, followed by Lance Stroll. We've got Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz, who are at the back of the grid in the top 10. We've also got Valtteri Bottas up into 11th place. So the 3 drivers who were towards the back of the grid in Norris, Sainz and Bottas have already made their way up into the points. All except Bottas, who needs to... he's passed Verstappen because Verstappen is making a pit stop here. Where could he have been without that spin? He was coming off such a high. Back-to-back wins for Max Verstappen in the USA and Mexico. And finally showing some of that tremendous car. The Red Bull have had a tremendous car in terms of everything bar reliability. That's the real thing that's let them down. And now Max Verstappen is right behind the Alfa Romeo of Kimi Raikkonen. This man, Sergio Perez, is becoming a multiple race winner by the year, it seems like. He waited almost 10 years for his first win, Sergio Perez. 9 years actually. He joined the sport in 2011 as a rookie for Sauber. Had a torrid year at McLaren in 2012, which rather set him back a few years. But to be fair to Perez, he stuck it out and he got his due reward in Sakir of last year. And won the race from falling down to the back of the field after being involved in a calamity at lap 1 involving Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen. Perez won that race. You make your own luck in Formula 1 and there was certainly luck involved. George Russell looked oh so comfortable. But then Mercedes' calamities in the pit stops really let them down. To the point where George didn't even have his own tyres on. He had Bottas' tyres. Had to make a pit stop to switch them back. You cannot run different compounds. Every tyre is marked with a name, and that must be the set you use. You can't chop and change tyres like that. Like you can't run 2 softs and 2 mediums. Unlike in the MotoGP where you can have a medium and a soft tyre, or a medium and a hard tyre. You can't do that here. George had to pit and then had a soy puncture. And that took him out of the podium positions. George was still on to win that race out of the first stop, mind you. Blistering pace. But Sergio Perez turned out to be the big benefactor, and then he won in Baku, of course. And today, he's absolutely dominated at the front. Red Bull now starting to really show some dominance in these races. I would say Mercedes have probably turned down the wick, as it were. They're not really running on full pelt. They've already wrapped up the Constructors and Drivers' Championships with Valtteri Bottas, Drivers' World Champion for the very first time. It's been a long time coming for Bottas, but he finally had a car that was capable of showing his eventual World Championship prowess. And to beat Lewis Hamilton is a Herculean effort, to be fair. Let's be fair to Bottas. Hamilton just a long way ahead. It wouldn't matter what teammate you put up against Lewis Hamilton. They're going to lose. Oh, there we go. Hamilton finally getting clear of Sebastian Vettel on the hard tyres, no less. And now he can chase after Pierre Gasly. He's got 9 laps and 6 seconds. 11 laps and 6 seconds, my apologies. To catch and pass Pierre Gasly. But I think it might be too late. He spent too far long behind the Aston Martin. Fernando Alonso running a terrific 6th place. Well, Verstappen is just absolutely lighting the timing screens up. He might take the fastest lap at one point, but even if he does, he's got to finish in the top 10. He's going down the inside of the Alpine of Ocon, and now chases after Ricciardo. He could be well on for a point here, Max Verstappen. He's on the soft tyres to finish the race. Verstappen is absolutely flying. That Red Bull should have been the main protagonist in the championship this season. It's been an absolute crime that they haven't. This has got to be the year for Red Bull where it got away. It's the year that got away. Their reliability was so poor, where they had a string of about 5 retirements, or maybe even more, in the first 9 or 10 races. It was abysmal to watch. AlphaTauri, mind you, were the big benefactors of it all. because their reliability was almost bulletproof. I think they've had one calf issued retirement all season. Max Verstappen is flying a 1 minute 9.4 as he set the fastest lap. That's a blistering lap by Max Verstappen, and he's catching up to Daniel Ricciardo and Valtteri Bottas here. As Mick Schumacher has been rather left behind by Jackson to a degree. Now DRS zone for a while now, Schumacher. Both HAAS trudging at the back, but still keeping ahead of Nicholas Latifi, mind you. It's been a great effort, really. You've been really on par with Williams collectively. And HAAS, to be fair, have been a lot higher up than people expected. So maybe next year won't be so bad, but who will their drivers be? We're pretty certain that Jackson is on the way out to we know not where. Mick Schumacher will probably stay on. More or less, I don't think Ferrari have any further plans. I mean, Alfa Romeo could be an option. But rumours of Guan Yu Zhou, the F2 competitor, partnering possibly Giovinazzi or Raikkonen. Raikkonen's still thinking about his options. And there's even small rumours that Giovinazzi might not make it either. They might go for a real switch at Alfa Romeo. There was rumours, I think, of small rumours of Bottas, but I don't think Mercedes will be letting him go now. And as we know, Mercedes will most likely stick. We haven't had a confirmation yet. But I think Bottas winning the title has pretty much forced their hand. They will have to stick. Red Bull are certainly sticking with Perez and Verstappen, and why wouldn't you? Ferrari almost certainly sticking with Leclerc and Sainz. Again, why wouldn't they? Sainz won the French Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc has had a great year under the radar, to be fair. McLaren as well, sticking with Ricciardo and Norris. So the big movers actually could be in the midfield, with Alpine having a seat relatively open for we know not who. If Alonso does decide to call time on his career, which would be very strange. He's had a decent year, Alonso, a decent comeback year, to be fair. But I think a lot of people do say Alonso probably shouldn't have come back in the first place, and maybe that's hit home with him. He's still got it though, Fernando Alonso. To be fair to him, those critics are invalidated, because Alonso has had a very decent year, relatively in the top 10 throughout it all. So the top 4 teams are sticking mostly with their driver lineups, you would think. So it's all between Alpine, Alfa Romeo, Williams. AlphaTauri will mostly stick as well, you would think. Aston Martin possibly. There could be a space for Jackson. But where will Lance Stroll go? Or where will Vettel go? Because Lance Stroll, of course, looks surefire to stay in the team, considering the management, of course. So where would Vettel end up? It'd be very harsh. I would like to see Vettel or HAAS, really. I think Mick Schumacher would hugely benefit from having his mentor there. And Vettel is playing the role that Michael Schumacher played for him all those years ago. That final race of 2012, and the title seemed to be slipping away. Michael Schumacher gave him the place he needed. And there was people saying Michael Schumacher was ruthless and uncompromising. To a degree he was, but I think his later years mellowed him down a bit, somewhat. Of course, he was going to give Vettel more space than others. And we just hope and pray that Michael Schumacher keeps fighting. Schumacher documentary was certainly an eye-opening one to the human of Michael Schumacher. His son is Formula 1 racing, and Vettel has to play the role that Michael would have had he not had his accident, of course. And your heart feels for Mick Schumacher. He's in such a tough situation. He's not had the best of first years. The car wasn't really up to it. You could argue maybe that, but Jackson certainly made the most out of it. But Jackson had a point to prove. Schumacher doesn't. He came in as the F2 champion. F2 champion, yeah. Almost called it GP2 there. He came in as the GP2 champion, so he'd already proven his worth. Jackson had to. He had to do a lot. He had to take a lot more risks. And boy did he take risks. And boy did they pay off. I want to see that kid next year. I think we all do. We all want to see Aiden Jackson next year. Because this boy has a future. Unfortunately today he's about to be lapped by Sergio Perez. But Perez has been a long way above the rest of the field today. And Jackson very duly lets him through. Now Charles Leclerc passing his possible future teammate in Mick Schumacher. What a lineup that would be. Mick Schumacher and Charles Leclerc, Ferrari's future. Boy, what a lineup. The prospect of that is immense. And I, for one, really want to see it. But of course, Carlos Sainz doesn't deserve to be just what's the word? He doesn't deserve to just be dropped, really, for no reason. It is going to be all about what Schumacher does next year as Aiden Jackson lets Charles put a lap on him. He's going to be out of position having to do that. Schumacher's going to go down the inside. Jackson puts up no fight. Lets him through. I think he was compromised having to let through Charles Leclerc to put a lap on him. So here we are then, the final lap. It's not been the greatest of Grand Prix, but Sergio Perez has certainly earned his stars today. Once again, it's a great drive by Sergio Perez. Finally at a team where he can showcase his talent. That second car curse that Red Bull may have had has been wiped clean because of Sergio Perez. He's certainly been level with Max Verstappen this season. And now, here he is. Round the final corner. An absolutely dominating display by Red Bull and Sergio Perez as he comes round to the final bend of the circuit. It's not really a corner. Sergio Perez wins the Brazilian Grand Prix in dominating style. Terrific win from Sergio Perez. Absolutely dominant. The right choice. Aiden Jackson finishes a lap down. Pierre Gasly will finish third. Bottas will get a point from the back of the grid. Max Verstappen doesn't score. And he got the fastest lap, but it won't count. Because he needs to be in the top 10. Another day of what could have been for Red Bull, maybe. They only really had themselves to blame. And maybe Max a couple of times has to account to that. Crashed at Monza. And spun here today. Pierre Gasly. Third for AlphaTauri, so unlucky for Yuki Tsunoda with that slow puncture. He dropped to 14th place. World champion Valtteri Bottas gets a point. Lewis Hamilton has a better day, but not the day you'd expected. He couldn't catch Gasly in the end. Finishes 4th. Alonso 6th. Stroll 7th. And Norris and Sainz, who were also at the back of the grid, 8th, 9th, and a point for Bottas. Those at the back of the grid really were the winners today, weren't they? Aside from Perez and Leclerc. No extra point from Max Verstappen. You need to be in the top 10 to get it. Another disappointing day at the office for Alfa Romeo, whose job of trying to even surpass HAAS in the Constructors' Championship got even more difficult. And HAAS are in a real struggle period at the moment. Schumacher 18th and Jackson 19th. And still Alfa Romeo can't capitalise on it. Bit of a Noah's Ark effect here. 2 Mercedes, 2 Red Bulls, 2 Ferraris, 2 McLarens. It's a bit odd. There's an AlphaTauri in there. It's Gasly moving up to 9th because of 3rd place. Jackson drops behind Stroll now. And it really does seem certain that HAAS have scored their last points at Monza. Aston Martin get ahead of Alpine. AlphaTauri are already ahead of them. What a great effort by AlphaTauri. But today, it wasn't the best of races. But Sergio Perez absolutely dominated. We have 2 rounds to go. We head to new pastures in Saudi Arabia for the first ever Saudi Arabia Grand Prix, which is deemed to be the fastest street circuit in the world. We can't wait for a new dawn there. Sergio Perez is your winner, followed by Charles Leclerc and Pierre Gasly. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you for the first ever Saudi Arabian Grand Prix.